What if everything you've ever believed about happiness is wrong? This question isn't just a casual way to start a conversation. It's like a hammer striking the very foundation of what you've been quietly holding onto for years. We grow up surrounded by advice, expectations, and unspoken rules, from parents, teachers, society, telling us that happiness is something we have to chase. That to be happy, we need more money, more relationships, more achievements. And so, day after day, we step onto the endless road of seeking. I was no different. For years, I was caught in the whirlwind of goals. A stable job, then a better job. A salary that covered my needs. Then a higher salary. A rented room, then a place of my own. Each time I reached a milestone, I believed I was closer to happiness. But strangely, the joy never lasted long. It would fade quickly, slipping through my fingers, leaving behind an emptiness I couldn't quite name. And that emptiness pushed me to run again, toward yet another goal. It felt like chasing my own shadow at sunset. The faster I ran, the further it drifted away. Some nights, lying in bed, I would ask myself, why am I so tired? Why do I never feel enough? I thought I was always just one step away, one more achievement, one more paycheck, one more nod of approval, and then happiness would finally be complete. But that, one more, never seemed to end. Maybe you're caught in that same loop. Maybe you're working tirelessly, sacrificing time, health, even important relationships, convinced that later you'll be happy. After you pay off the debt. After you buy the house. After you get the promotion. After you find the right partner. But that, later, often turns out to be nothing more than a mirage. You reach it, and it dissolves. Like morning mist in the sunlight. What no one tells us is this: happiness is not a destination, it's a state of being. And that state isn't hidden in tomorrow or in, once I have this. It's right here, in this very moment, where you're breathing, living, and feeling. But to see it, you have to pause. I remember one time, after pouring all my energy into a big project, the outcome turned out exactly as I'd hoped. The deal was sealed, my income jumped, my colleagues admired me. Yet instead of happiness, I felt empty and exhausted. That night, sitting alone in a quiet room, I stared out the window. The sky was dark, and a single thought crossed my mind. If I keep living like this, I'll spend my whole life chasing happiness, and never truly touch it. That moment was like a bell ringing. I began to wonder. What if true happiness doesn't require this endless race? What if I've been mistaking fleeting pleasure for deep peace? What if happiness has been here all along? But I've never paused long enough to notice. Then I realized, what had kept me trapped all along was an old belief, that happiness lives in the future, in something outside myself. When that belief crumbled, another path revealed itself. A path that didn't begin with doing more or getting more, but with turning inward, listening deeply, and feeling gratitude for what's already here. Maybe you, too, need a moment like that. A moment when the question, what if everything you've ever believed about happiness is wrong, echoes inside you like an invitation. An invitation to step out of the exhausting loop, and begin a different journey. A journey to find happiness right here, right now. There's a psychological phenomenon scientists call the hedonic treadmill. The name might sound technical, but if you've ever played video games, you'll get it instantly. Imagine this, in the game. Every time you beat a level, you get a reward, but the reward only gives you 10 seconds of joy. You barely have time to smile before, ding, a new level appears, a new enemy spawns. And you're off running again. No real rest. No long pause to enjoy the victory. Just the same loop, win a bit, feel good for a moment, then start all over again. Our lives aren't much different. We set a goal, work hard to reach it, and when we finally do, the thrill comes fast, and fades even faster. That joy is like a soap bubble, shimmering, beautiful, but fragile. Before we can really savor it, it's gone. Then comes that familiar emptiness, and once again, we start chasing the next goal, hoping this time it will last longer. But the cycle repeats. Just like running on an invisible treadmill, you're moving constantly, but you never actually get anywhere. There's an old saying, chase your shadow, and it will run, stay still. And it will come to you. Yet in our modern world, we're trained to run. Run to keep up. Run so we're not left behind. Run for just a little bit more. But the faster we run, the shorter our breath gets, and the finish line, it moves right along with us. More than 2,500 years ago, the Buddha pointed out a simple but profound truth. The root of suffering is craving, that restless urge to cling to things that can never stay. Our mind keeps telling us, if I can just get this, I'll be happy. But life is impermanent, everything changes, everything fades. When we try to hold tightly to what can't be held, we only end up hurting ourselves. Think about the feeling when you buy something new. At first, you treasure it. But not long after, the excitement fades. You start wanting something else, newer, better. It's not because you're ungrateful, but because the human mind is wired to adapt to what it already has and to long for what it doesn't. That's the hedonic treadmill turning. Or take the example of achieving a major success, graduating, getting promoted, buying your dream home. At first, you're elated, feeling on top of the world. But soon, new pressures set in, the harder work, the heavier responsibilities, the monthly mortgage. And suddenly, what was once a dream feels like another burden. You shift your eyes to the next target, hoping this one will fill the void. But in reality, you've just stepped onto another turn of the same wheel. The Buddha never said desire itself is evil. He understood that aspirations and dreams are part of being human. The real problem arises when we confuse short-lived pleasure with lasting peace. We think that one more win, one more milestone, will finally give us happiness forever. But like that game, each victory only rewards us for a moment before we're thrown into the next round, tired, yet unsure how to stop. And here's the truth worth sitting with, the problem isn't you. The problem is the map you've been following. If you're using the wrong map, it doesn't matter how fast you walk, you won't end up where you want to be. Society, media, even well-meaning loved ones have drawn a map to happiness based on having more, achieving more. But this map leaves out the most essential point. Happiness isn't at some faraway destination, it's in your ability to see and appreciate the present moment. Instead of running endlessly on the hedonic treadmill, there's another way: slow down. Step off, and actually look around. When we stop treating happiness as a finish line somewhere in the distance, we begin to notice the fullness of life right here. Like a gamer who pauses to admire the scenery instead of rushing from quest to quest, we can discover a deeper kind of joy, one that doesn't disappear after 10 seconds and doesn't require chasing. Realizing this doesn't mean we throw away all our goals or ambitions. It simply means we no longer let them define our worth or tie our emotions to temporary wins. We can keep working, keep dreaming, but from a place that's lighter, freer, without being out of breath from an endless race. And that's when we truly step off the hedonic treadmill and begin a different kind of journey, a journey toward happiness that isn't waiting in some uncertain future, but alive in every step we take right now. Shifting perspective, from destination to skill. There is a realization in the Buddha's teachings that, once it sinks in, can completely change the map of your life. Happiness is not a destination. It is a skill. It sounds simple, but it turns upside down the way we usually pursue joy and peace. Most of us think of happiness as a place, a fixed point at the end of a long journey. We imagine that when we finally get there, all our suffering and worries will vanish. But here's the truth. There is no such point. Life is not a straight road, and happiness is not sitting at the end waiting for us. From the Buddhist perspective, happiness is something you practice. just like any other skill. You can't just arrive at it, you have to train it, nurture it, little by little, day after day. Think of learning a musical instrument, like the piano. Nobody expects to sit down and become a concert pianist after one afternoon. You start with clumsy fingers and scattered notes, producing sounds that barely resemble music. You practice one note, one chord at a time. At first, every session feels like a challenge. But you keep showing up, day after day. And then one day, you notice your fingers moving naturally across the keys. And the sounds you make have become music. Happiness works the same way. It doesn't appear simply because you want it. It comes when you practice living in ways that cultivate joy, gratitude, and inner peace in each moment. The problem is that most of us treat happiness like a reward we'll be handed once we meet certain conditions: enough money, enough success, enough love, enough recognition. We forget that happiness is a life skill, and no one can give it to us. We must train it ourselves. In Buddhism, there are many exercises to develop this skill: mindfulness, compassion, and contemplation of impermanence. Each is like a finger exercise for a musician. It may feel repetitive or even boring at first, but over time, it builds the foundation to play the symphony of life. Imagine this: every morning, instead of rushing out of bed to start a busy day, you take a few minutes just to sit and breathe. You notice the air entering and leaving your lungs, aware that your body is alive and capable. Such a small act, but it's like playing one beautiful note. Over time, repeat it again and again. Those notes become a melody. Like any skill, happiness requires patience. You can't expect to start practicing today and have all your troubles disappear tomorrow. Just like piano practice. There will be days you hit the wrong keys, days you feel like you're making no progress at all. But if you keep going, bit by bit, you'll witness something miraculous. Your mind begins to find its way back to peace, even in the middle of life's storms. And here's something important: when you see happiness as a skill, you stop comparing your journey to others. You understand that everyone practices at their own pace, starting from their own place. Just like two people learning piano, one may progress faster, but that doesn't diminish the value of the other. Your happiness is a song only you can play, and it will sound in a way that's uniquely yours. Here's the secret: the skill of happiness does not depend on circumstances. A pianist can play in a grand concert hall or on a worn wooden chair in a small room, and the music can still be beautiful. In the same way, when you've cultivated the skill of happiness, you can feel whole even on the simplest days: a quiet afternoon with tea, a morning walk, or a moment watching clouds drift by. When happiness becomes a skill, it's no longer something you have to get to. It's something you carry with you, in every step, every word, every breath. And once this skill is deeply rooted, no one and nothing can take it from you. No matter how much life changes. Just like a pianist who no longer thinks about which keys to press, music flows naturally from their hands. When happiness becomes a skill, you no longer have to look for it. It flows effortlessly from the way you live, like your breath, like your heartbeat. That's the moment you realize, happiness was never a place you had to find. It's an art you practice. And the more you practice, the richer, freer, and more alive the song of your life will become. Science backs this up: your brain can be rewired to be happier. It's fascinating that what the Buddha taught more than 500 years ago, that happiness is a skill that can be trained, is now being confirmed by modern science. Positive psychology and neuroscience have spent decades studying how the brain responds to experience, and the evidence is clear. The brain can change its structure and function throughout your entire life. This ability has a beautiful name: neuroplasticity, the brain's capacity to adapt and rewire itself. Put simply, neuroplasticity means this: whatever you practice daily becomes the highway in your brain. Just as soft ground eventually forms a well-worn path when walked on repeatedly, Neurons in the brain strengthen and default to whatever thoughts, emotions, or actions you repeat over and over. This is why people who constantly worry find it easier and easier to feel anxious over time. They've been training the parts of the brain related to stress without realizing it. But here's the good news: if you can train yourself to worry, you can also train yourself to be happy. Functional MRI studies have shown that when people regularly practice skills like gratitude, compassion, and mindfulness, the brain regions associated with satisfaction, social connection, and emotional regulation, such as the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, undergo measurable changes. For example, research by Dr. Richard Davidson at the University of Wisconsin-Madison measured brain activity in monks with tens of thousands of hours of mindfulness and compassion meditation. The results? The regions of their brains linked to happiness, empathy, and resilience lit up far more strongly than in the average person. In simple terms, you can literally reprogram your brain to be happier, not with pills, shopping, or chasing achievements, but by training new neural habits. Every time you pause to feel grateful for something small, smile at a stranger, or focus on your breath instead of being swept away by thought, you're sending a signal to your brain: build more pathways here. This is the direction I want to go. Think of your brain as a garden. If you water the weeds of anxiety and anger, they'll take over. But if you consistently plant and nurture the seeds of joy, gratitude, and compassion, over time your garden will bloom with the flowers and fruits of happiness. Neuroplasticity shows us that this garden can be transformed, no matter your age or how long you've been living in stress. Here's the key: change doesn't happen overnight. Just like building muscle at the gym, you can't expect results after only a few sessions. But if you dedicate even a few minutes each day to training your happiness muscles, through meditation, gratitude journaling, or small acts of kindness, your positive neural pathways will grow stronger, and happiness will become a natural reflex. This understanding frees us from the false belief that personality can't change, or I'm just not a happy person. The truth is, your brain is not a fixed block of stone, it's a living system, constantly shaped by what you feed it. And if you feed it experiences of warmth, gratitude, and compassion, it will gradually make happiness your default mode. Once you truly see this, you stop waiting for happiness to fall into your life from the outside. You start actively rewiring your brain every single day, through small, consistent choices. Over time, those choices create a life where joy is no longer dependent on circumstances, but arises naturally from the way your brain and heart have been trained. As one neuroscientist put it, your brain changes based on what you do most. Choose wisely. And in my own words, you can literally rewire your brain to be happier. 5 daily habits to train happiness, turning joy into a natural reflex. We often think happiness is a state that only arrives when everything is perfect, when work is smooth, relationships are loving, and health is thriving. But if you look closely, life always has its cracks, the pressures, uncertainties, and moments that don't go our way. If we wait for all of them to disappear before allowing ourselves to be happy, well, we might be waiting our whole lives. Here's the good news. Happiness isn't a gift that only comes with ideal circumstances, it's a skill you can train every single day. Just like you work out to strengthen your body, you can exercise your happiness muscle so your brain and heart become accustomed to joy. Below are 5 simple daily habits that can rewire your brain, making happiness your default mode. 1. Gratitude journaling, the morning thank you list. Every morning, before you dive into your tasks, write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be huge, maybe it's a warm cup of coffee, a sweet message from a friend, or the simple fact that you're healthy today. The magic here is that when you actively look for reasons to be grateful, your brain gradually learns to scan for positives instead of fixating on problems. You're literally reprogramming your mental radar. Research shows that regular gratitude journaling can reduce depression, increase life satisfaction, and even improve sleep quality. Think about it. If you write down 3 things you're grateful for every day, in 1 year you'll have over 1,000 reasons to believe your life is full of blessings. 2. 1 minute pause, the power of a tiny break. In the middle of a busy day, practice pausing for just 1 minute. Close your eyes, take 5 deep breaths, notice the air going in and out. And gently bring your mind back to the present moment. This simple act shifts your body into rest and digest mode, calming the amygdala, the brain's stress center. Even 60 seconds can create a break point in the flood of thoughts, giving you space to respond wisely instead of reacting impulsively. Try setting 2 or 3 alarms throughout the day as gentle reminders to pause. Over time, you'll notice peace not only during the pause, but also spilling into your work, conversations, and commutes. 3. The kindness drop, a small daily act. Every day, do 1 small act of kindness without expecting anything in return. It could be offering your seat on the bus, helping a coworker print documents, or giving a genuine compliment. Kindness doesn't just lift the receiver's spirits, it also releases feel-good chemicals like oxytocin and dopamine in your own brain. Over time, these drops of kindness accumulate, turning compassion into a habit and joy into a natural part of who you are. Bonus: kind acts strengthen your sense of social connection, one of the most powerful ingredients for lasting happiness. 4. Letting go practice, the art of not carrying it all. Each day, choose 1 thing that annoyed or upset you, and decide to let it go. It could be a snarky comment online, a small mistake from a coworker, or a traffic jam. Letting go doesn't mean denying the problem, it means refusing to let it hijack your mental space and energy. With practice, you'll realize that many things we think are huge are actually not worth carrying all day. You can even make it a ritual, write the irritation on a piece of paper, take a deep breath, and tear it up. This sends a signal to your brain: inner peace is more important than clinging to negativity. 5. Daily joy hunt, looking for sparks. Every day, intentionally look for at least 1 small thing that brings you joy, and write it down. It could be sunlight streaming through the window, someone's laughter, or the smell of fresh bread. When you hunt for joy, you train your brain to view the world through a more positive lens. At first, you may need to make an effort to spot it. But over time, joy will start finding you, because your brain has learned to notice and remember it more often. Why these habits work? They're not just cute ideas. They're neural workouts. Every time you practice one, you strengthen the brain circuits tied to satisfaction, gratitude, and a sense of safety. Just like physical exercise, the more consistently you train, the stronger your happiness muscle becomes. And here's the beauty: you don't have to overhaul your whole life overnight. Start with 1 habit, then add more as they stick. Eventually, you'll notice that happiness is no longer a finish line you're running toward, it's the way you walk every day. Or, as I like to put it, these aren't just cute ideas, they're your daily training for the happiness muscle. Breaking 3 common myths about happiness. We all want to be happy, that's universal. But the funny thing is, many of us are carrying around quiet, unspoken rules in our minds about what happiness should look like and when we're allowed to feel it. And here's the problem. Some of these rules are completely wrong. They're not based on truth or research, they're myths. They sound convincing, but they actually work against us, making happiness feel further away. Today, let's clear the fog. We'll take a close look at 3 of the most common misunderstandings about happiness that keep people stuck, and more importantly, we'll replace them with perspectives that actually work. Myth number 1, I'll be happy when. We've all told ourselves some version of this. I'll be happy when I get the job I want. I'll be happy when I finally meet the right person. I'll be happy when I make enough money, move to a new city, or lose the last 10 pounds. On the surface, it sounds reasonable. Of course we'll feel good when good things happen, right? The problem is, this mindset subtly trains your brain to postpone happiness until certain conditions are met, and life doesn't work like that. There will always be another when waiting on the horizon. Even if you hit one goal, your brain will immediately set a new one, and suddenly your happiness is delayed again. Research in positive psychology has shown that our circumstances, income, possessions, status, account for only about 10% of our long-term happiness. The rest comes from our habits, mindset, and daily experiences. That means you can be in the middle of challenges, uncertainty, or change and still feel joy right now, no waiting required. The truth is, happiness isn't something that appears at the finish line of your goals. It's something you can practice along the way. You can celebrate small wins, appreciate the people around you, and savor moments even while you're still working towards something bigger. Ironically, people who do this tend to achieve more, because their energy isn't tied to a constant feeling of not there yet. Myth number 2, happiness is a feeling that lasts forever. A lot of us imagine happiness as this perfect, golden emotional state where the sun is always shining, we're always smiling, and nothing ever bothers us. We think if we figure it out or find the right secret, we'll lock ourselves into permanent bliss. But real life doesn't work like that, and it's actually a good thing it doesn't. Happiness isn't a permanent emotion. It's a fluctuating state, like the tide. It comes and goes, influenced by what's happening around you and inside you. If you expect it to be constant, you'll panic the moment you feel stressed, sad, or frustrated, thinking something must be wrong with you or your life. In reality, those moments of discomfort are part of a healthy emotional spectrum. They help you appreciate the joyful moments more deeply. Imagine if you felt only one emotional note forever, even if it was happy, your brain would eventually stop noticing it. Variety and contrast are what make life rich. The more helpful way to think about happiness is as a garden. It doesn't stay lush and blooming without attention. You water it, pull the weeds, plant new seeds, and let the seasons do their work. Some days it will look vibrant, other days quieter, but with steady care, it keeps growing back. This is why daily habits like gratitude journaling, mindfulness, and small acts of kindness are so powerful. They're like the water and sunlight for your inner garden. They don't create a fake, plastic version of happiness that's there all the time. They help you cultivate the real, living kind that can survive different seasons. Myth number 3, other people decide how happy I am. This one is tricky because, yes, the people around us can absolutely affect our mood. A kind word can brighten our day, and a harsh comment can sting. But here's what most people underestimate. About 90% of your long-term happiness depends not on what others do, but on how you choose to interpret and respond to it. Think of it this way, if someone criticizes you, you can take it as a personal attack and let it ruin your day, or you can pause, breathe, and ask, is there something useful here, or can I let this go? If a friend cancels plans, you can spiral into disappointment, or you can use the unexpected free time to do something you enjoy. This isn't about ignoring hurt or pretending you don't care. It's about reclaiming the steering wheel of your emotional life. The moment you believe other people control your happiness, you give away your power. You become dependent on their behavior, their approval, and their moods, which means you'll be on a constant emotional roller coaster. The truth is, you get to set the emotional tone for your own life. People will still have their ups and downs, they'll still make mistakes, and they'll still occasionally hurt your feelings, but those moments don't have to dictate your overall state. You can choose to focus on what's within your control, your actions, your thoughts, your values, and the meaning you assign to events. The bigger picture. Why letting go of these myths changes everything. When you stop waiting for the right conditions, myth number 1, stop chasing an unrealistic forever happy state, myth number 2. And stop outsourcing your joy to other people's choices, myth number 3, something powerful happens. Happiness stops feeling like a fragile, Rare gem and starts feeling like a renewable resource, something you can generate, tend to, and rebuild, no matter what's going on around you. It doesn't mean you'll never have bad days. It means bad days won't erase your ability to find good moments within them. It doesn't mean you'll stop having goals. It means you'll learn to enjoy the path as much as the destination. And it doesn't mean you'll stop caring about people's opinions or kindness. It means you'll stop letting them define your worth or your mood. At the end of the day, happiness is less about chasing and more about cultivating. It's not about holding on tight to one perfect moment, it's about weaving small, intentional choices into your day that make joy more likely to show up. And when you realize that, you stop asking, when will I be happy, and start noticing, wow, I already am, in small ways. Right now. Connecting with the Buddha's teachings. There is a short, simple line from the Buddhist scriptures that carries a universe of meaning. When the mind is at peace, happiness follows. At first glance, it sounds poetic, even obvious. But if you sit with it, really let it echo in your mind, you'll realize it's quietly challenging one of the deepest assumptions of modern life, the belief that happiness depends on what's happening around us. We are conditioned, almost from birth, to scan the outside world for our sense of well-being. If things go our way, we feel good. If they don't, we suffer. And yet, what the Buddha pointed to is almost the opposite. The state of your mind determines your happiness far more than the state of the world. Think about it, two people can experience the exact same event, a rainy day, a delayed flight, a critical email, and have completely different reactions. One person sees the rain as a ruined afternoon, another sees it as a cozy moment for tea and reading. One person sits at the airport seething with frustration, another uses the delay to finally write in their journal. The external conditions haven't changed, only the inner lens has. This is the essence of the teaching. The Buddha wasn't promising that life will stop being messy, unpredictable, or painful. He was offering something far more powerful. The ability to remain steady and grounded within that messiness. And the path to that inner steadiness isn't magic, it's a skill, cultivated through specific mental trainings. Mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present with whatever is happening, without clinging to it or pushing it away. In daily life, our minds are often somewhere else. Replaying the past, predicting the future, or narrating a constant stream of judgments. Mindfulness interrupts that automatic wandering and anchors us in the reality of this moment. Why does this matter for happiness? Because suffering often comes not from events themselves, but from the mental stories we layer on top. The flight delay isn't just a delay, in our minds. It becomes, I'm wasting time, this always happens to me, this trip is ruined. Mindfulness gently pulls us out of that spiral. It lets us see the delay as just a delay. It opens space for curiosity. What can I do with this moment? The Buddha compared an untrained mind to a monkey, leaping from branch to branch, restless, reactive, easily unsettled. Mindfulness is how we train the monkey to sit still, even for a moment. And in that stillness, peace begins to grow. Loving kindness. Another core training is loving kindness. Or metta, the intentional cultivation of goodwill toward ourselves and others. Modern life often encourages a kind of emotional stinginess, we give warmth only to those who deserve it, including ourselves, and hold back when people don't meet our expectations. But loving kindness operates differently. It's not a reward, it's a practice. You start small, silently sending wishes of well-being to yourself. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. Over time, you extend it outward, to friends, to strangers, even to people you struggle with. This isn't about condoning harmful actions. It's about freeing yourself from the corrosive effects of hatred and resentment. From a Buddhist perspective, anger and ill will are like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. Loving kindness doesn't just make you a nicer person, it unburdens your heart. And a lighter heart experiences more joy, regardless of the world's chaos. Letting go. If mindfulness helps us see clearly, and loving kindness softens our hearts, letting go is what keeps us from being pulled under by every passing wave. We live in a world of constant change, relationships evolve, bodies age, fortunes rise and fall. Yet we often respond to this impermanence by clinging tightly to what we like and pushing away what we don't. The Buddha identified this clinging, or craving, as the root of suffering. Letting go doesn't mean apathy. It means holding life with open hands instead of clenched fists. It means enjoying a beautiful moment without demanding that it last forever. It means facing loss without collapsing into despair, because you understand that change is the nature of all things. This skill of letting go turns happiness from a fragile possession into a resilient capacity. If your peace depends on everything staying exactly the way you want, you'll always live in fear of losing it. But if you can meet life's ebb and flow with a steady mind, you'll find peace is available in almost any circumstance. Freedom from external dependency. When these three trainings, mindfulness, loving kindness, and letting go, start to weave together, something shifts. Happiness no longer feels like a hostage to external events. Yes, you'll still prefer comfort over discomfort, ease over difficulty, that's human. But your baseline sense of well-being stops swinging wildly based on the news, your bank account, or someone else's opinion. The Buddha's insight was radical for his time, and it's still radical now. We can live in the middle of an imperfect, unpredictable world and still feel whole. Peace of mind isn't something the world gives us, it's something we grow from within. Living the teaching today. In our fast-paced, hyper-connected world, it's easy to dismiss ancient wisdom as outdated. But neuroscience now echoes what the Buddha taught: the brain can be trained. Mindfulness changes brain patterns linked to stress. Loving kindness meditation increases activity in areas related to empathy and positive emotion. Practices of letting go reduce overactivity in the brain's default mode network, which is often associated with rumination and anxiety. So when we read, "When the mind is at peace, happiness follows," it's not just a poetic line. It's a roadmap. It's a reminder that while we can't control the waves of life, we can learn to surf them with balance, grace, and even joy. The takeaway. Buddhist practice doesn't promise a life without challenges. It offers something better, the ability to remain steady, kind, and free, no matter what's happening outside. Mindfulness gives you clarity. Loving kindness gives you warmth. Letting go gives you freedom. Together, they transform happiness from a fleeting visitor into a trusted companion. And in that space of inner peace, you'll discover that the world doesn't have to change for you to feel at home in it. Because the true home was never out there, it was in your own mind, all along. Closing and call to action. If there's one sentence I hope stays with you long after this video ends, it's this. If happiness is a skill, you don't have to wait for life to be perfect, you can start training today. Think about the freedom that gives you. For so long, many of us have been living under the silent contract that says, "I'll be happy when I get that promotion, when I meet the right person, when I lose the weight, when the world finally gets its act together." But what if that contract is a scam? What if all along, happiness wasn't waiting at some faraway milestone, it was sitting in the corner of your everyday life, waiting for you to notice it? And what if the way to notice it isn't to passively hope for better conditions, but to actively train your mind, the same way you train your body, or your voice, or your ability to play an instrument? That's what the science says. That's what the Buddha said. That's what thousands of years of human experience keep saying. Your invitation to begin today. So here's my challenge to you, not for next week, not for when things calm down, but for today. Pick just one of the happiness habits we've talked about. You don't need to overhaul your entire life. You just need to give your brain a signal, this is important. This matters. This is the kind of mind I want to grow. And here's the secret. Once you do that, even for a single day, you've already started rewiring your brain. You've proven to yourself that happiness is not a prize you wait for, it's a practice you choose. Why your voice matters here. Now, I want to hear from you. Not in some vague, maybe someday, way, but literally right now, scroll down to the comments and tell me. Which habit are you going to try today? How did it feel when you did it? Did anything surprise you? Your story might be the exact thing that inspires someone else to start. That's how this works. Happiness is personal, but it's also contagious. When you share your small wins, you light the path for others. So don't underestimate the impact of your words. Even a one-sentence comment can shift someone's perspective. Let's build this together. If this message resonated with you, if it cracked open even the smallest door in how you think about happiness, then I'd love for you to stick around. Hit that subscribe button, because we're building a space here where ancient wisdom meets modern science, where deep ideas are made practical. And where we remind each other that the life we want isn't out there, somewhere in the distance, it's here, in how we live today. When you subscribe, you're not just signing up for more videos. You're joining a conversation, a practice, and a community of people committed to growing the skill of happiness together. And if you turn on the notifications, you won't miss the next episode, which might just be the one that answers a question you've been carrying for years. Your next step. Don't just watch this and move on to the next thing in your feed. That's how inspiration gets diluted until it disappears. Take one action today. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be real. Final word. So I'll say it one last time, because it's worth engraving into your mind. If happiness is a skill, you don't have to wait for life to be perfect, you can start training today. I can't wait to read your comments, to hear your stories, and to see how you choose to take this into your own life. And if you haven't yet, subscribe, because this is just the beginning of what we can explore together. Your journey toward a happier mind doesn't start when the world changes. It starts the moment you decide to pick up the tools and begin. That moment could be right now.